Hello, hello, hello. I am so happy to be here. So, I've got a question for you. Do you want to double your business this month? If you do, you don't need to buy another course. You just need to change one conversation, and I want to teach you how to do that today. So that is my goal for you. I hope you're all having a great day. Happy Tuesday. This is Tuesday Top Tips with yours truly, Alicia Alt, founder of Level Up Score. And what I seek to do in these lives is really bring you some very valuable information that you can take home and you can actually apply into your business today. And so, my goal for today for all of you that are listening is to double your business. Starting today, double your business. I'm going to give you some action steps that you can take to make sure that happens for you, just like I did last week. So, if you missed last week's live, please scroll down and find last week's live because it kind of compounds off of that today. Okay. So again, how I doubled my income and my business by changing one conversation. That's what I'm going to give you tips on today. And I'm excited to be here. Please feel free to drop comments in the chat below. I'd love to get back to you and answer any questions that I possibly can. So thank you again for being here today. So here's where we're going to go. I doubled my business without changing my offer, without changing my price. I just changed one conversation. And that conversation changed everything in my business. So we're going to discover what that one conversation was and how I was able to do that. But before we do that, I just want you to know I tried a couple different things. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a situation where you're trying different things for your business because you're trying to figure out how can you get more business in the door, right? You're trying to grow your business. And so you might lower your prices, you might change your offer, you might try to restructure the whole ball game because one thing didn't work. And what I would challenge you to do today is stop all the chaos, simplify your life, stop changing things. Because a lot of times when you change stuff, you didn't even give the one an option to figure out if you can even make it happen, right? So you didn't give it a chance, I should say. And so I did that. I remember at one point in time, I had created my systems and my automation, had a really smooth process. And I thought, okay, if I want to really grow my business at this point in time, I probably need to lower my price because that will attract more people into my ecosystem and that I can move forward with taking those clients on. And that is not what happened. When I lowered my price, I actually made a lot less money. I didn't get more clients from lowering my price by no means. Matter of fact, when I raised my price, so I went the opposite way. I went from where my baseline was and raised it. That's when I got more clients. Okay. But I had to change one conversation before all that happened. So before you decide that you're going to drop your prices so that you can get more volume in the door, I'm going to encourage you, stop that chaos. Don't do that because the lower your prices, the less of a demand that you put on yourself for clients to think that you are an expert, right? So experts don't charge low fees. Experts actually charge high fees, okay? But we got to change the conversation and we actually have to be an expert. And that's where this conversation goes to. So a couple things I want to tell you. When I say one conversation, I mean the way I spoke to my prospective clients, the way I guided them. I realized I wasn't having goal conversations with people. I was having credit repair conversations, dispute conversations. So I might be looking at your credit report, telling you all the errors and how I'm going to fix it and how I'm going to make this plan for you and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. You're going to get a monthly review, and I'm just throwing up on them of all the things I'm going to do for them. And at the end, they're thinking, and oftentimes don't even express it, but they're thinking in their head, okay, great. I don't know what all this means, but am I going to get to my goal? And you never answer that question because the fact of the matter is they didn't come to you for disputes. They didn't come to you for an action plan. They didn't come to you to tell them all the different beautiful things you're going to do and how you understand how to review credit reports and you know how the law works and this and that. They don't care. They never cared about that. And so we have to change that conversation. Again, this builds off of what we talked about last week. So if you did not see that live, I do encourage you to watch that and kind of come back into this one. Have you ever had someone say, I need to think about it? So you just pitched them and now they're saying, I need to think about it. Most often, if you're having a person come to you and they're saying, I need to think about it, it's usually because you never built trust that you're going to get them to their goal. Think about that for a second. if you can build trust in the conversation that you're having with your prospective client, that you can take them from where they're at to where they want to go, then let me think about it. It's not a question, right? Oftentimes, those people can see that you can take them from here and get them there, and they don't even care what the price is if they see the value. So you might even got the question about what's your charge until they are about ready to sign up. Just sign me up. Sign me up. That's what you want to hear. You want to hear this emphatic yes. I need your service. I want your service because you were able to showcase that you were going to help them get to their goal. Okay. And how do we do that? And that's how we're going to discover today. So I'm going to show you how to turn every call or consultation into transformation by using what I call my GAIN method, G-A-I-N. It's my GAIN framework. So you'll never sound salesy, which no one wants to be sold to. And if you think about yourself, if you got that phone call, I know a lot of people are getting the business funding phone calls right now, right? You got that phone call and they're trying to sell you on something. You feel that. It doesn't feel authentic. You just feel like you're being sold to, and you will most likely hang up the phone. And I know when I was speaking at Smart Credit, someone said, I'll grade them on how well they did their sales job and tell them what they did wrong, right? So you could do that too, but you know what I'm talking about. So we buy from people because we see that they can help us get to a goal that we're trying to achieve. Their product or their service is going to help us achieve some kind of goal that we're seeking, right? And you know that. So kind of, I think about Russell Brunson a lot, where he's very intelligent in marketing, but he literally analyzes why he buys something, right? Why did I buy this thing? Why did I buy this thing? And so he goes back and he tries to figure out from his own psychological standpoint why he bought the thing. And so if you look back and you think about why you buy things, if you really analyze that, one thing that you're going to see is that it's always to get to a goal or a status. We are very much status human beings. So, for instance, the goal might be to buy a house, but it's also about status. What buying a house may make them look like or feel like internally, right? And so think about that when you're addressing your clients or your prospective clients. What's their goal and what's the status they're trying to reach? So you can make that emotional connection with them, number one. But also, you should be making sure that if the goal is this, that you have the process to get them to the goal, right? Not that they're going to come to you and pay for services thinking that they're going to get to a goal and they don't ever get there. So just make sure in your business practice that you know what the outcome is for your consumer. It'll make your marketing a lot easier. I talked about that last week. Your marketing will be a lot easier. Your message will be clear. But most importantly, you'll have a process that works, that gets them from where they're at to the goal that they're seeking. And that's really important. And if you can do that, the conversations with those prospective clients is going to be super, super easy. They're going to know what the outcome is going to be, and you're going to know what the outcome is going to be, and everybody in your office will know what the outcome is going to be. And guess what? They get the outcome. And if your prospective clients get the outcome when they become clients, guess what? You don't have to worry about working out there for leads and doing ads and all these things, because people are going to be knocking your door down to get to that same goal, right? So consider that as you're thinking about how you're approaching your prospective clients, okay? So let's start with where I was before this shift came, because this doesn't come from theory. This comes from actual frustration that I had in my business. So I talked about how I was like, oh, I want to really build up my business, double my income. I'm ready for this challenge. I'm really good at what I do. And I knew I was good at what I do. I knew I can cross you to the finish line. So if this is your goal to buy a house, you were going to get to the finish line. But I thought in order to get more people into my ecosystem, because I believe so much into what I was doing, and I know you guys do too. You believe in what you're doing is helping people. And I believe that too. And I was like, man, how can I get all these people to understand? Okay, I'll lower my pricing so I can get more people in the door. So the pricing's not an objection. Reality is pricing's only an objection if they don't trust you're going to get them to the goal, if you didn't lead with that conversation. Now, for me, I knew I would get them to the goal. That was easy for me. I knew 100%. Matter of fact, if you didn't pay for my services, I kind of felt bad, like, man, what did I do wrong? Because this person needs me so bad, and they're going to go in the wrong direction or with the wrong person who's really not going to get them to their goal, right? But it wasn't price objection, it was my conversation that did not engage them to understand what I was going to provide to them, okay? Or what we were going to do together, the journey that we were going to create, the transformation we were going to create together, okay? So when you change your conversation from what you do to what they want, everything else aligns, the energy, the trust, and ultimately the conversion of that person into a client. So, a couple things I want to go over with you. Early in my business, and I think this is for a lot of us, our conversations, our consultations with clients are filled with a lot of logic, right? Because we can say, okay, I'm looking at your credit report. We need to get another credit card so we can, help balance out this high utilization. We might need to then get a personal loan to pay off the credit card. So we blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of logic in it, and there's a lot of information, which is important for us to know, right? How we're going to accomplish the goal that they have. But when we are talking logic to the prospective client, that's not engaging them. Okay. They understand there's a process and there's a logic to what we're going to do, but they don't need us to tell them all the things. Okay. So, um, I would say things like we'll challenge the errors, we'll remove negatives, we're going to rebuild trade lines. You've heard it, you've said it, right? You said it. But the person on the other side is thinking, okay, will I get my house? And that's where we really need to be concentrating our conversation on is that they're going to get the house and help them not only see that you're the person that's going to help them get from here to here. And we're going to talk more about how you can do that through the G.A.I.N. Right now, I just want you to focus on understanding the conversation, right? Not only are we going to be able to get them from here to the end goal, but the other thing is that we have to understand that they might not really think that they can do it. Okay. So consider this. And I said this last week, and I think it's due to be said again. When you have a really big goal, and you just think about yourself for a second, you have a really big goal that you're trying to accomplish. And I like to use the weight loss thing because it's a lot of people's goals, right? And we go from diet to diet to diet and nothing works. And then someone presents something and they're selling us a product or service for weight loss. And we're like, okay. And they built some trust that they're going to be able to help us cross the line. And, they're going to implement these things and we're going to eat this way and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And they had the full plan for us. They've laid it all out for us. The next thing that goes on in our head is, can I actually do it? Okay. So it's not just that they trust you can help them get there and that you have the plan and the solution, the journey, but they also have to build trust within themselves that they can do it. And I love how Alex Hermosi puts this. It's like, as you are building out your system for your consumers, writing down all the problems they might face. Like if we're talking about weight loss, like if they have to eat certain foods, like, oh, I don't want to have to cook. I don't know that I can cook this food. I don't know if I can shop for this food. I don't know. And so if you think about that in your space, they might be thinking, I don't know if I can come up with the money to pay down the credit card if they want me to pay it on the credit card. And, I don't know anybody who ever bought a home. So I know I want this goal really bad. I want it for my kids but man, it just seems so far out of reach. We have to pull that goal in closer and get them to understand that it is something achievable, right? And guys, please don't do this and say, oh, we can get you there in 3 months because you may have just blocked their entire ability to believe that they can do it. 3 months is a short period of time, right? And you're listing out all these things that they need to do and that you're going to help them do. And oh, I got the plan. I'm going to do all this. We're going to do all this. And they're like, how long is it going to take? I'm really excited. Oh, 3 months. You may have just devastated them when you said 3 months. I know you think they want to hear 3 months and they think they want to hear 3 months, right? Because we all want something instantaneous. But the second thought is 3 months. That's not a lot of time. Am I going to be able to pay that down? Am I going to do this? So again, really consider having a conversation with your client about the end goal, what challenges that there are, the gap. That's here I am. Here's where I want to go. What's the gap? And understanding the gap so that you guys can come up with a process that works for them. Okay. And so consider that as you're thinking about that because it's not all about whether or not they trust that you're going to take them there. They also have to trust themselves. Okay. And sometimes the why is not quite big enough. If I say my goal is to buy a house, or some of your consumer says my goal is to buy a house, and you go, okay, your goal is to buy a house, and you start going in through how you're going to help them get a house. The house might not be the big why. The big why might be that the kids are in an unsafe environment. And so you have to dig for the big why, because the big why is actually going to be the thing that helps convert them into going to your process, but it also helps keep them engaged throughout the process. So if you start seeing disengagement from the consumer, you have to help them understand their why again. Okay. But it has to be the big why. And that's where diving into this conversation that I'm talking about is so very important. Okay. Um, so give you an example. One day a woman asked me, as I'm telling her all the great things that I'm going to do, right? She says, I don't care about my credit. You're like, okay, wait a minute. We're having a conversation about improving your credit, and you just told me I don't care about my credit. And so it took me aback. And she further, okay, tell me more. Okay, I just want to stop being embarrassed at the bank. So what that aha moment was for me is I didn't stop to listen and lead the conversation with the goal. I was leading with the services and what I was going to do for the small amount of money that I was going to charge and how I'm the best, right? And so because of that, she's sitting back and she's like, I don't even care about my credit. I could care less about my credit, but I really hate being embarrassed at the bank. Remember I told you the status? So oftentimes we buy for a goal, but that goal is usually linked to a status. So her status was being embarrassed at the bank, right? So she didn't really care about her credit personally, but she cared about the status that it gave her at the bank, right? So keep that in mind. So that was my aha moment, that I was solving the wrong problem in my conversation. Okay. So I stopped opening calls with what I do, and I started with what they want. Again, I stopped answering calls with what I do, and I started focusing on what they want. And that's when the connection happens. That's when conversions explode. Okay. That's when people want to work with us. They have an emphatic yes to work with us. Okay. So think about this. I'm going to tell you two different lines, and you can kind of feel it for yourself. Okay. So first one, um, a dispute conversation sounds like a transaction, right? So if I say, yeah, you can work with me. We're going to remove the errors on your credit report. We're going to do some rebuilding. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. This is my charge. That sounds like a transaction, right? And that's not what consumers want. We don't want to be sold to. So a goal conversation sounds like a partnership. Hey, Jane, I am so excited for you. Your goal was to buy a house. And I know that the big reason you want to buy this house is because you want your kids to be in a safe place. And I'm excited to help you with that journey to get there. I've been there, I've done that. And I have the perfect journey plan for you to help you get there as fast as possible. Take all the road bumps out that I had to endure when I went through the process. Make it as smooth and easy as possible. I'll always be here for you and hold your hand. I'll be your accountability partner, but I'm gonna put the plan together and we're gonna work on it together. That sounds like a partnership. It also keeps me from looking like the hero, because I don't want to be the hero. Hero puts too much pressure on me. Again, remember from last week, right? I want to be the guide, not the hero. Does that make sense? Okay. So, key takeaway, you don't sell what you fix, you sell what they feel. Don't sell what you fix, you sell what they feel. So think about that, the emotional connection. So my action tip for you today is start your next consultation with something like this. Tell me your end goal. What's one thing improving your credit would allow you to do today? Tell me about your goal. Hey, so client comes in, hey, some XYZ referred you to me. I'm looking to get my credit score improved, and I think I need to get to like a 680. I think that's what my letter told me to do. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with me. What's your goal? Oh, my goal is buy a house. Okay. What's the reason you want to buy a house? And continue to dive into that with this ability to have this open conversation with them, to dive into their big why. And that's going to help you understand what they need in your journey, right? And to make sure you're the right person for them. Please be the right person before you have them swipe their credit card. Okay. All right. So, next part I want to go through is my GAIN framework because the conversation is about the goal. But what I learned really fast is once I understood that part, that I need to transition my conversation from here's the things I do to here's what you want. Once I understood that, I needed a way to structure it, right? So how often do we think, okay, I need to do this way, but we need a framework, if you will. We need to know how we're going to do what we're going to do so that's a repeatable process and system. But also, if you're the only salesperson today, hopefully tomorrow you're not. And how do you give this to your team? Is this is how we do our sales calls, or this is how we do our consultations. I don't even like to call it sales. Um, so I needed, for me personally, I needed to structure those conversations so every team member could do it instantly, very easily. And that's when I created the GAIN framework, which I did speak about at the Smart Credit Conference. So if you want to see that full speech, that is on YouTube. Feel free to look at that. But GAIN is G-A-I-N, and it stands for G as in goal, A is in awareness. We have I is in insight, and N is in next step forward. Okay, so I'm going to go through each of those parts of the GAIN framework so you can understand them. But the GAIN framework actually gives structure, flow, and confidence so that every call builds that connection, that awareness, and easy next step. Okay, so you can't rely on scripts. Scripts sound robotic. So if you call me up and you say, hey, Allie, can you give me a script for that? I will tell you your scripts will sound robotic and they oftentimes sound salesy. So frameworks create some kind of flow. So instead of having a script, you have a framework that you can go by. So the GAIN became the foundation for every conversation in my business from new leads to partner calls. So this GAIN framework, I didn't just use for my prospective clients, but I used it for my prospective partners. This is going to help you double your business even further than just with the clients that are calling in, right? This or calling in or doing your online consultation. If you don't know how to do that, please get with me. But your partners, your real estate agents, your loan officers, like what are their goals, right? And so that you can structure how you do your business to help make sure that you're reaching the goals for those individuals as well. So this GAIN method works for both sides of the spectrum here. Okay. Um, it helps your clients see themselves succeeding before you ever make an offer. Isn't that powerful? So if you think about, my client who wanted to buy a home for his daughter, and it was a status thing. So it was a goal. He wanted to do it for his daughter, but it was a status thing because he was feeling like he wasn't a good father. He wasn't a good husband, and he just felt crappy about himself altogether. So again, a lot of times when people buy something, they're buying status, a goal and status, or hand in hand. So he wanted that status too of having that home that showed that he was a successful man, if you will. Okay. And so when I'm talking to him, I'm bringing that out and I'm validating his feelings and I'm helping him see how it can be a reality. Okay. And that's part of that GAIN framework. Okay. So we're going to go for the first letter in GAIN, which is G, and that's for goal. Start with vision, not problems. So a lot of times, and I know because I've done it, and I am sure you have too, the first thing in your consultation process is you want that credit report. And why do you want that credit report? Because you want to see all the problems on that credit report so you can make sure you let them know all the problems they have and then the solution that you have for those problems. Okay, that's great. You should know that. And I certainly do ask for that credit report during my consultation. So when I'm doing my online consultations, I will review that credit report, but that's not where I start with. When I first start on my online consultation, I'm starting with their goal. I'm validating their goal. I'm helping them actually visualize themselves reaching that goal. That's the first part of the GAIN framework is the G, the goal. So really focusing on the goal. So start the conversation with their dream. The moment you identify their goal, you shift the energy from fear to hope. And you actually, this is so important. You really start to help them visualize the goal. I talk about John Doe who, wants to buy a house for his daughter. And I say, hey, I just can't wait until the end of this journey. And you're walking into your new home and you open the door to the little girl's bedroom. And you say, what color do you want to paint your room? Do you think he had that vision in his head? Maybe. Maybe he did, but most likely he didn't. And I gave him some more oomph for his goal, right? Some more energy, some more emotion where he could literally see himself as I'm describing it, holding his daughter in his hands and walking her through the hallway into this bedroom, swinging the door open and saying, "What color?" Do you imagine that he probably did that when he bought his home? He did buy his home. I imagine he did. I imagine he did that because I set that vision in his thoughts and mind and heart throughout the entire process that I worked with him. And that is the first part of the framework, is the goal. Really, 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 really establishing that clear goal and the big why and helping them visualize succeeding through the process and getting to that goal, right? So that's the first part. Ask, what do you want your credit or finance to do for you over the next 6 months? So maybe that's a question. Or they come to you and they say 700 score. Why 700 score? Why? A lot of why questions will help you get to the meat of what you need to know in order to help them best, but also help to have that emotional connection with them. Okay. When they answer with emotion, when they answer with emotion, you can then connect that emotion, right? And so when he told me that he felt like a slum husband and father and man, I was able to connect with him and say, you know what? I feel you. I feel you. A lot of people go through that. I know as a single mom, I felt like that. Like, how do I give more to my kids because I wanted to be a good mom, right? So you can also emotionally connect with them when they are able to emotionally express their wants and needs and desires. Okay. Um, and then you can anchor everything on the outcome in that conversation. So that first conversation is G, goal. All you care about is defining the goal, getting clear on it, helping visualize it, giving them hope that they can actually go through the process and achieve the goal. Next is A, and that's awareness. Awareness is to help them see the gap. So we want to help them become aware of what's been keeping them stuck, not in a shame-based way, not in a judgmental way, but with clarity. So we might say something like, "Hey, John Doe, you're wanting to get to this goal of buying a home, and we got this credit report, score 600. We need to get it to XYZ, right? Got a few things that we need to look at and consider. We might need to do some rebuilding of credit, but the fact is that we're not quite there. There are some things we need to do to get you to your goal, right? And so this is just where you're not judging, you're just letting them know that there is a gap. And do they already know there's a gap? Yes, they already know there's a gap. So we're not like throwing up on them and telling them all the bad things that are on their credit report, right? That is not the time to do that. We're just expressing that there are some things missing in that perfect pie to get them to their goal, right? And so this is a very delicate spot, right? So you've already pumped them up on their goal. You've helped them see that they could reach their goal. And then if you throw up on them with all the errors on their credit report and all the issues that they have, then it's almost like telling them, I said all this stuff about your goal and I helped build this goal up, but really you're so far away. You absolutely need me so bad. I'm going to be your hero because without me, you'll never get there. And that's not the way that you want to leave people feeling. You want to leave them feeling empowered and saying, yeah, I have a gap, but it's doable. I can do this, right? But they do need to know that they have a gap. Let's see. So where am I at? So you might ask them, what do you think has stopped you from reaching your goal so far? That's a great question. Instead of you telling them, maybe you start to ask them questions. Like, what do you think might be keeping you stuck? And these have been some of the greatest questions I've ever asked a person because they'll tell me, you know what? I have a hard time budgeting. And so I have the money. It's always there. I just forget to pay the bill. Or I go out shopping and then realize, oh, shoot, I was supposed to pay that bill because I didn't realize that the bill was due. So we have situations like that. I've had how many clients tell me I make a lot of money. I just don't know what to do with my money. Right. And so then you have that additional insight of what's the root cause of the problem. Right. And so asking questions is better than telling them all the errors in their credit report. And this is where your credibility shines. You don't tell them what's wrong, you help them discover it. Right. Instead of saying, hey, you have 100 lates on this credit card. You might say, hey, I'm reviewing a credit report and I see there's been some issues with payments on time. Can you tell me more about that? right? And it's more of a discovery. So they start to open up and tell you, especially if you ask that question, what do you think's been stopping you? They'll tell you, you know what? Well, my daughter went to the hospital and I have all these medical bills and I just didn't know what to do. So I just buried my head in the sand and just pretend like they weren't even there. And now I'm having to deal with it today, right? So you can uncover a lot more that way. And this builds instant trust. Okay. When they say, I've never looked at it that way, you've won. So in that conversation, when we're looking at the gap, we're helping them discover what the gap is. We're not just throwing up on them, but we want them to be able to say at the end, hey, I never looked at it that way. Does that make sense? So thinking about, let's think of an example on that. So let's say a person is going, they have 30-day lates on their credit card, right? And you say, hey, I discovered by looking at your credit report, there's some late payments. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Oh, you know what? I forget to pay my bill all the time. It's not that I don't have money, I just forget. And you might say, okay, that makes sense. I understand that. People are busy all the time. What do you think would happen if maybe you set these on auto pay? Oh man, I never thought about looking at it that way, right? That solved the problem, right? So consider thinking about how can you get people to say, I've never looked at it that way. Okay. Next letter in the GAIN. So we got the G, goal, the A, awareness. Now we're at I, insight. And this is a really fun one. So you're going to educate and empower in this step. This is where you give value and it's a teaching moment. Okay. Share something that they didn't know about the process, like how scoring models work. You might talk about how DTI affects their approval for a home loan if that's their goal, how payment history shapes their future. So you're going to talk a little bit about that, but I want you to give real value. So don't be that gatekeeper on your information and say, oh, you have to pay me to get this. Give it to them. Give them the sauce that's going to help them. So, I've had clients come to me, credit looks pretty good. There is a gap from where they want to be. And I might just say, hey, you know what? There's a lot of things we can do. But if you want to do one thing to get you to the other side, the one thing is to pay this credit card down. And so we're going to give them true insight. And this is what I want you to pay it down to. And now that opens up, is that possible? And they might say, oh, right now it's not possible. Okay, we can work on coming up with a framework for that or a process to make that happen faster rather than slower. So then you know a little bit more about what you're going to be delivering to them, right? When you teach something useful, you create this aha moment. And people buy from people who educate them. People buy from guides. Guides get paid. Okay, people buy from guides. This gives you a chance for you to shine and show your credibility, show that you know what you're talking about. Certainly, you're not making it sound like you're the hero in this. That's not the point. But the point is to show them, hey, you know what? I'm looking at over your situation and I see we got these late payments and we've already discovered you have the money to pay it. It's just that you didn't have auto pay. So let's start there. That's going to help this trend and it's going to improve your credit over time. We're going to get further and further away from these lates, right? But then I do want to ask you another question. Do you know if you're 1 day late or 2 day late on the credit card? Because what I do know is most credit card companies will remove a late if it's 31 or 32 days late. And then like, oh man, it's always like 1 day late. It's like the next day I get a notification that I'm late and I go and pay it, right? And that's where you're giving that credibility. Does that make sense? So insight and then delivering an educational, empowering moment for them. The next letter and the final letter in the GAIN framework is in, and it's referred to as the next step. This is the invite, not the pushing them into buying your services, but an invite. So you might invite them to the next step, and it's kind of a natural thing that happens in the flow of the framework, right? So you went to insights, and so let's say I presented, hey, are you 1 day late, 2 days late? Oh, you know what? I'm always like 1 day or 2 days late because as soon as I get that notice, I pay it. Okay, that's where I can be a really big help for you because I understand how we can talk to this creditor to possibly get that taken care of, right? So if it makes sense for you, and a lot of my clients come to me for this exact same reason, I would love to guide you through this journey so we can get you to your home loan. I can create the plan for you. I can be your accountability partner. So I'd like to invite you to that if it makes sense for you, right? So you're inviting them in And it usually is a natural progression because it went from the inside, just like I just gave you that example of the credit card, right? Student loans are a big one, right? So you can, if you're having, they have student loan problems, say, hey, you know what? I see this, I'm seeing this often. People are getting hit with a 90-day late, 120. But realistically, you can't have a 90-day late if you didn't have a 30 and a 60. Oh, really? I didn't think about it that way. How can they tell me I'm 90 days late if I wasn't 30 or 60? Yeah, you're right. They can't do that. So that's something I can help you with. So I would like to invite you, if it makes sense for you, that we work on that together, right? And so that's an invitation. So I like to say, if it makes sense, like a lot of my clients, it's made sense that they walk through this journey with me, right? I'd love to walk you through my step-by-step plan to help you get from where you are now to your goal of buying a home. This is my specialty. This is what I've been doing for the last 23 years, and I'd love to help you get there. How does that sound? Then I say, yeah, we're going to do all this stuff for you. And I charge $139 a month. And right now, if you get started right now, it's $150, blah, 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 blah. Right. And you're just telling them right now, but this is a limited time offer. You better get it today. It's a limited time offer. My fees go up tomorrow. This is like on this consultation call kind of thing, right? And then you're just seeming like pushy and salesy. Right? You get some people, salespeople, they're good at being pushy and salesy and getting people. They're also good at having a lot of people have buyer's remorse. They're also good at people not staying with them for the long term because they forget the person in the whole process. They're also really good about getting charge offs, right? So think about the person first in this process. And that's what the GAIN framework is. So G is for goal, A is for awareness. So let's go back to goal. Goal is like, hey, what's the big why? And how can I help you get to where you are now and where you want to go? And A is that awareness. What's causing us not to be there already? What's that gap between where we are now and the goal that we want to have? I is insight. What are the things that we can do? What are the things we can really do? How can I educate you so we can get there together? Right. And then N is that invite to the next step forward. The invite. So, next step, if it makes sense, right? And then they always feel in control. They don't feel pushed. People like to feel in control. I bet you do too. I know I do. I like to have a lot of control, right? But people do. In general, we like to have control. And we don't want to feel like we lost control because someone pushed us and saying that we have to have this and they're our hero. Okay. All right. So, key takeaway: a script sells a service, a framework builds a relationship, right? So, think about that for a second. If I had this script, the script for the G, the script for the A, the script for the I, the script for the N, it wouldn't come off authentic. And it certainly wouldn't be a process that helps me build a solid communication between the two of us, right? Or if I'm doing my online consultations, because of my online consultations, I'm not talking to you. You're filling out a questionnaire for me, a very short questionnaire, and I'm using that and still using that GAIN framework to build off of, but we're not having a back and forth conversation. A little bit trickier in that situation, but it's very, very doable in the same respect because it's keeping the person in the forefront, their goal in mind, helping them visualize it, and giving them some more information. Sometimes when someone fills out my questionnaire, they don't give me a lot of information. So I might email back and say, hey, got your questionnaire. So excited to do your online your online consultation, but I just have a couple more questions real fast to make sure that I am the right person for you. And then I'll kind of see if I can get them to open up and give me some more information. Okay, so keep that in mind. A little bit more challenging when you're doing online consultations, but once you get that GAIN method down, it becomes very quick and easy, and you can do that without the back and forth from the consumer. So those consultations, when I do online consultations, we're talking 5 to 7 minutes in length. So I'm not on a phone call taking 30 to 45 minutes. My calendar is not filled up with consultations. Most of my clients don't even talk to me. It's because we can do this process on an online consultation process in 5 to 7 minutes, still give them the GAIN framework, and it works very effective. Okay. All right. So I did want to give you an action tip for this. I would challenge you, if it makes sense, for you to consider this. If you've been struggling with doubling your business and you're thinking, hey, I'm going to lower my price to get more people in, please don't do that. If it makes sense, I'd like to challenge you to just start using this GAIN. Maybe just do it on the next 3 consultations, Or maybe it's just one because you're scared. You're like, I don't know. This has been working pretty well for me. I don't want to switch it up and change it and mess it up. But I would encourage you, I should say, to consider taking me up on that offer to try this G.A.I.N method. And if you would like more details on the G.A.I.N method, if you'd like me to build you out a process for the G.A.I.N method, if you want to drop a DM or DM me or drop a comment in and with the word G.A.I.N, I'll send you my G.A.I.N method in a little bit more detail that might help you as you're making these consultation calls or video consultations if you do it like me. Okay. All right. And quick thing, if you do it, kind of take notes on how that went. What was the response back? If you're doing it as an online consultation, maybe you look at and see, is my conversion rate higher now that I started doing this? Um, and you might find that it is. I get a lot of emails back when people take my class on mastering online consultations, and they take that class and they start doing it, and they email me. I get an email and they say, "Oh my goodness, my conversion rate is doubled, or my conversion rate is almost 100% now." Right? Because again, these are I've been using them for a long time, 23 years, and I have a lot of other people that I've taught this, so they work. But you got to get used to that process because it's not necessarily natural in sales. That's not what we're getting taught, right? So I encourage you to try that. Okay, so now we are going to go into the next segment and make this even more practical for you. I'll show you some specific language shifts that can trigger emotion, connection, and conversion. And Steve, I got your message about wanting to gain information, so I'll get that out to you for sure. Okay. So this is the language shift. Words that convert without feeling salesy. Okay. Words shape emotion. Emotion drives decisions. Changing your words changes your income. All right, I'm going to say that again. So, words shape emotion. I think we can all agree to that, right? Words shape emotion. Emotion drives decisions. You're all very emotional beings. So, think about that when you're thinking about your clients. We're very emotional beings. Changing your words changes your income. Okay. So most CROs lose sales. Most CROs, financial advisors, credit professionals, real estate agents, loan officers. I'm talking about all of us. Okay. We lose sales because our words start focusing on logic and not emotion. And it makes sense. There's a lot of logic behind what we do, but that's not the connection that we can't make a connection with the consumer on logic. Now, you will have some clients, prospective clients that are analytical that need a lot of logic, but they first need emotion. Even those people need to connect with the big why before they even want the logic. But some of those will ask for the logic, but that's still where insight comes in because you're still giving some of that, but you're not throwing up on them with it. Okay, if that makes sense. All right. People don't want credit repair. They don't want the 100-point increase. They don't want credit repair. They don't want disputes. They don't want that. Right? Can we be fair and say that out loud? They don't want credit repair. Change your name. You're not credit repair. If you are helping someone get to a big goal and that's your specialty and you've done it over and over successfully again and again and again, credit repair is probably just one ring on the ladder of value that you're providing to them. I go back to I'm a first-time home buyer specialist. There's a lot that goes into being a first-time home buyer specialist. I've talked about this several times. Sometimes they need credit help. Sometimes they need down payment. Sometimes they need home buyer education because they don't know they have to mow their lawn, right? Sometimes they need a loan, right? Sometimes they don't. They got inheritance. All these things come into play when I'm a first-time homebuyer specialist. So am I a credit repair specialist? Absolutely 100% no, I'm not. I might do some credit repair work just like a lot of people do, or budgeting work, but that's not what I do. I'm a first-time homebuyer specialist. So I want you to really think about that in your field. What are you? It's not credit repair. Because if it's credit repair, you have no audience. You don't have a clear message. You're not going to be able to double your business unless you hustle, 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 lower your prices, hustle, 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 lower your prices, and try to make every sales call and be pushy, pushy, pushy. But if you know who you are and where you can have someone from here and take them here, and you know that works, your message is really clear. You can connect emotionally because you probably went through the same thing. But again, your message is clear. And so this is where this language shift is so very important. Okay, so when you start using future focused language, people can visualize their goal and the decision feels easy. Okay, so I'm going to give you John Doe again, right? Where I'm saying to him, he told me, I want to buy a house for my daughter because I'm not feeling like a man. I'm not feeling like a good husband. I'm not feeling like a good father. Can you imagine? Get to the finish line and you buy your first home and you walk into the house with your baby girl in your arms and you walk down that hallway, swing open that door, right? That's what I gave him. I was able to give him future focused language that he could actually see himself walking into that home. Okay, very important. So changing your language is very important. So I'm going to give you some real examples in language shifts. Okay, so old language first, new language second. We'll dispute the negative items on your credit report. Now I'm going to laugh saying that because I know you say it. I know you say that. You got a client and you're like, okay, what are you going to do for me? Oh, we're going to dispute all the negative things on your credit report. All right. New language. We'll create a step-by-step plan to move you closer to your mortgage loan home approval. New language. Old language. Sign up, sign up for our credit repair service. I've seen it. It's on your social media post, right? It's on your buttons on your website. New language. Let's start your home ownership journey together. That's really helping them get to their goal. Old language. We'll fix your credit score. New language. We'll help you build a profile that lenders say yes to. Let's think about that for a second. We'll fix your credit score. I had a guy come in at 750 score. I shared this with a group of people yesterday. Guy comes in with the 750 score, has no negatives on his credit report, right? Am I going to focus on we'll fix your credit score? If that's what I'm saying out loud to everybody, that we'll fix your credit score, that's not what he needed. He actually needed to build a profile that lenders say yes to. So now I take that whole thought process that a score is the driver of the approval, which it's not. It's a profile that's the driver to the approval. And I get to change that conversation. So I'm not score based. I don't have to worry about the score going up 100 points in 30 days, right? I can focus on the goal again. Okay. Another one, old. We'll get faster deletions. You'll get faster deletions. New. You'll get faster results that matter, approvals, but not just deletions. Because now I don't have to focus on the fact that I'm going to write the best dispute letter ever and it's going to come off, right? Because that's really not the goal. They think it might be the goal because they've heard it on TikTok that that's the goal. But if you can tell them, hey, we're going to get faster results that actually matter to get you your home loan, it's not just about getting deletions. And maybe we don't even get any deletions, but we are going to get you to your goal. Okay. Or like the guy at the 750, there was nothing to dispute. There was nothing to delete, right? So think of it that way. So notice how the second part, that new language that I said, paints this picture. It's emotional, visual, and purpose-driven. So I'm going to give you one more again so you can hear that. So again, notice how the second version I say is going to paint a picture. It's going to be emotional, visual, and purpose-driven. So here we go. We'll dispute the negative items on your credit report. New. Watch for it. We'll create a step-by-step plan to move you closer to your home loan approval. Okay. Old. Listen for it. Listen for that. It paints a picture. Okay. Sign up for our credit repair service. Let's start your home ownership journey together. Picture. Now, I immediately, when I said those words out loud, I immediately thought of this journey walking down the sidewalk to a new home. I don't know why I came up with that, but that was the picture in my head, right? We'll fix your credit score. We'll help you build a profile that lenders say yes to. What do I see right away? I hear this emphatic yes to me getting approval, right? Last one, we'll get faster deletions, or you'll get faster deletions. Instead, You'll get faster results that matter. Approvals, not just deletions. Okay, do you see that? These small shifts in phrasing instantly elevate how clients perceive you from a service provider to a guide. Okay, we talked about this last week as well. All right, so my action tip for you. Audit your next 3 consultations. Write down every time you mention the word credit or dispute, and then learn to see if you can replace those words with goal, plan, or result. So instead of changing, if you have a script, instead of changing it all, maybe that's the first thing you do is just audit your conversation. So if the script says, we will help fix your credit, maybe you say something, we will help you get to your home loan. Okay, take out the word credit, replace it with goal, plan, or result. See what that does for you. Takeaway quote. When you talk about their dreams, they'll never argue about your price. When you talk to people about their dreams, they'll never argue with the price. I rarely get anyone ask me how much it cost, right? Because they know that I'm going to get them to the goal. So they're ready to sign up, but let's sign up right now before I even mention what the cost is. Okay, so think about that. Consider that. Okay, so we're going to wrap up here, and we're going to hopefully, I hope I gave you enough so you can really start to put this in practice. I'm going to go back over my action tips for you just to make sure that we got them grounded in what I'd like you to invite you to take action on. First one, start your next consultation with, tell me what your end goal is. Tell me what your goal is. Why do you want to do this? Start your next conversation with that. And then the next action that I had for you was use the GAIN method, G.A.I.N, on your next 3 consultations and see how that goes. Take note what happened in those results. How did you feel? I'm going to imagine that you're also going to be feeling better, not just the client, but I think you're going to feel better in this conversation. And then the last action tip that I suggested was audit your next 3 consultations. How many times are you saying credit or dispute, and see if you can replace that with goal, plan, or result. Okay. So last bit, I'm going to close up. The conversation is the conversion. Change how you talk and you'll change what you attract. Change how you talk and you'll change what you attract. And that is in everything in your life, guys. Your thoughts are things as well. I challenge you this week, if it makes sense for you, to audit your next 3 conversations using the GAIN framework, goal, awareness, insight, and next step forward. Notice how different it feels when you're leading instead of selling. And if you want my personal GAIN, we talked about this a second ago. If you want my personal GAIN outline, DM me with the word GAIN, drop it in the comments, and I'll send it to you. And if you want help applying this for your business, I will provide a link for my 15-minute strategy session that you can get on my calendar for. And you do have to choose the focus. So last week we talked about the shifts, so the clarity shift, the responsibility shift, and the system shift. Those are the 3 core shifts in any business that you should be looking at all the time in your business. But if you get that link for the strategy call, please tell me which one you would like to focus on, because 15 minutes is not a lot of time, but I want to make sure that I give you a lot of powerful value in that 15 minutes to help you in your business. I do one-on-one 1-hour consultations where we can sit down and do coaching together. So that's an option too, but we'll do the 15-minute strategy just to see if that's even something that maybe we would invite you to, and may not. Okay. And then, of course, we do have the Millionaire's Journey. This is a journey map where I help people, if they have a passion, no matter what your business is, credit, finances, whatever it is, from a passion to making a $1 million business. And I give you the framework. And then for the next few weeks, we'll also be doing group coaching calls to go over that framework to help you along the way. So feel free to DM if you'd like more information about that group coaching. Next Tuesday, though, this is really important. We're going to talk about frameworks. So today I showed you how you can double your business. And that sounds great until it happens. And if you don't have frameworks and systems and automations and processes and all those things in place, it's not usually sustainable to keep those clients and really take them through the process that you are promising to them. So even though doubling your business sounds like a great next step, I would encourage you to start putting these into practice, but please see me next Tuesday on the live so we can talk about how we put frameworks in place so that you can be able to double your business, have a life, financial freedom, time freedom, relationship freedom, all those things that you want. And that's why you became an entrepreneur, is to help people, but also for you to have a really great life. I know that's what you want. But oftentimes we become an entrepreneur and we trade our 9 to 5 for a 5 to 9. And hopefully next week I could teach you how to reverse that. I appreciate you. I hope you guys are well, and I look forward to our next